Crackheads, it's Friday. It's a big week. UFC 322. It's one we've been waiting on for a long, long time. I'm Petesy Carroll. I'm broadcasting from Ireland. You might know that country. You know, the one that handed Portugal its ass 2-0 yesterday. Cristiano getting sent off 30 minutes before. The crying gesture. We have a chance to qualify for the World Cup, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. On Sunday, I'm going to be locked into that game with Hungary, but today, it's all about UFC 322 with some interludes towards the Ben Eubank rematch, and maybe a look back at Rousey-Holm 10-year anniversary. Chuck Mindenhall wrote about it this week. But my God, isn't it nice to just be very excited about a fight card? I'm absolutely buzzing. This welterweight situation that's happening, Islam Makhachev moving up to try and make himself the 10th double champion, I believe. Well, he said as much in the UFC history. Jack Della, Maddalena, are people sleeping on the Australian? And then we have all these contenders. Michael Morales, 18-0, undefeated against Sean Brady, a man who many people feel already deserves to be fighting for the belt. And that's not all. Leon Edwards, Carlos Prates. It's all going down. I'm so excited to talk about all these wonderful things. So let's bring in Chuck Mindenhall and Ben Fowlkes, the lovely duo, to get things started here. Here, look at these lovely men. My God, I love them so much. Oh, there. Just the ease that comes over my body when I see these two men. Chuck Mindenhall, how are you getting on, sir?
I'm well, man. I did see the thing you're talking about with Ronaldo doing the little or whatever was going on over there. That looked fun.
It's it's the classic Irish football moment. The yesterday before that match, we're all like, well, who's going to be our new manager? We can't keep this guy. Then they go out and they beat Portugal, and we're like, suddenly, this is the greatest manager of all time.
We'll die for this, man.
This is the greatest sporting moment in our country's history. Ben, I know you were watching it. You love soccer ball.
I actually do. I've come to enjoy it quite a bit. I really enjoy when you get into this World Cup qualifier kind of era where some people care a whole lot and other people take it for granted. I think that's one of the most fun dichotomies in sports. And I say that while my beloved Montana Grizzlies head into just such an occasion this weekend.
Oh.
They're out in Portland playing the Portland State Vikings, who have won exactly one football game this season. And now they play the undefeated first place in the Big Sky Conference Montana Grizzlies. And you're just going to find out whether they still think they have any pride left to play for. That's one of the best things in sports. You get to see these people whose spirits rightfully should have been crushed by now, and they have to rally and see if they can get a moral victory against an absolute behemoth. Personally, I say no.
Did Sacramento State get in touch with you, Ben, and just kind of issue any apologies or anything like that?
It was implied. I felt it was implied that they're having a little bit of fun. Dr. Luke Woods having a little bit of fun. He called them the Montana Pandas. Then the Pandas rolled in there and just stomped the Sacramento State Hornets. And, of course, some Grizz fans sent some Panda Express to his office on Monday morning because we don't let shit go.
Brilliant.
We do not let shit go over here in Grizz Nation.
Hey, can I just say, what you did there, Ben, is you took the soccer conversation and you just flipped it immediately, right? I don't do this a lot. Like, can we just have 5 minutes where we're just talking about how great the Irish football team are? Because on Sunday, if they lose, I'm gonna flip again. I'm gonna be like, fuck these guys. I can't believe they got my hopes up again. Alas, I do.
Don't you get your fill of that with Ariel? Isn't he like the Nottingham Hill team?
He's a toxic sports fan. I've told him this.
Nottingham Hill. This man said Nottingham Hill.
Yes.
You're thinking of the Julia Roberts film right now.
That was a good film, by the way.
That's fucking brilliant. Lads, there was some weigh-ins this morning. Thankfully, our championship bouts are all in place, and we have some video. It's our favorite part of the week. Let's look up men in pants. There's Islam Makhachev. He's got a little black eye there. Very emaciated looking for a man who's moving up for 155, if you ask me. And here is JDM. He's got the hoop of shame out. You can see him taking off his undies there if you're looking down towards the feet area. He's getting them out one by one. It's a difficult process. We've all been there. Very difficult after a few beers as well, you'll find. Here he comes, JDM.
Looking good.
Looking pretty good.
Looking good.
Valentina, looks drawn out there. I mean, she's been doing it, and we'll talk about this later, for 23 years nearly, Ben. So we can definitely talk about that later on. And Zhang. That's what you should look like if you're moving up a weight class. That is a very healthy fighter right there.
Happy. looks happy, flexing the biceps, and there's actually some flex to it. We're not seeing the flesh tremble.
Just you're not seeing a heartbeat in the actual rib cage. Whatever happened? Remember, like back in the day, they did have that like hoop that they'd kind of bring up for people who needed to get all the way down. So they've like made improvements in that area, right? That was like a state of the art kind of device they were using there.
Well, it's way better. It's a vast improvement on the old let's hold a beach towel up in front of him system, because that one had a lot of problems. First of all, Daniel Cormier
it helped him stay upright. I will say that.
he learned how to use it to take a couple pounds off real quick. But also, we've seen people just drop that towel. I have seen the genitalia of MMA fighters I did not want to see just because somebody couldn't hold the corner of the towel up. And this takes away a lot of the guesswork. Didn't they used to have it sponsored, though? There used to be like a sponsor logo on this thing. Did we find out that maybe no sponsor actually wants to be the, hey, our name is on the thing that you bring out when somebody has to get shamefully naked on the scales?
I think they did, actually. I actually have a bit of a story about this. So, obviously, when I was working for MMA Fighting, I was doing fights in Europe, and I'd be putting up things on the MMA Fighting socials before the Americans woke up and were able to actually be like, hey, Peter, you shouldn't be posting that. And so it's quite a busy affair. If you've ever done it, like you're taking video, you're then uploading the video, you're putting in the weigh-in results into the computer. I was in Liverpool. You'll remember that Darren Till famously had a rough time making weight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I was at a very low, the stage is here where they're making weight. I'm down here. Boy. I'm taking my phone out and I'm like,
I think I see where we're going. I don't like it.
And
I guys were arrested for shit like that, Petesy.
I posted this and I went back to doing the weigh-in. So again, I'm just bang, down here. I think it was Casey Lighton who ended up ringing me and being like, hey man, take the tweet down. You can see his dick. I was like, oh god.
Was he in England or was he in California? Because that's a long time.
He's in California. He woke up and saw a fighter's genitalia just there on the screen. So thankfully after that they start sending a cameraman with me, because I shouldn't be trusted with technology, and everybody learned their lesson. So it's a nice
Casey
story.
He's probably just woke up, he's sipping his coffee, he's looking at this and he's going, I should probably send Petesy a note about this one.
Spits his coffee out a little bit.
The panic I had for the rest of the day, I was like, did I sexually harass one of these people? Like what type of charges are coming my way over this? Let's talk about these fights, lads. What I'm seeing is Islam Makhachev genuinely surprised by the loving reception he's getting in New York City. You surprised by this, Chuck? He seems to be very surprised.
I'm a little surprised, but it's only because I just don't like, when we talk about Islam, I don't really get the same cult vibes I used to off of Khabib, because he had all those moments. He had a lot of weird moments, and his humor started to really pop at some point in time when he started talking cage side to like Dana White and things like that. So Khabib was, if you're comparing him to Khabib always had something going on that way. Whereas Islam, I don't know, I just haven't seen it a lot, but it doesn't really have that kind of charisma. And his fighting style, it's not like people, I mean, he has a lot of finishes, but it's not like he's been a fan favorite in that way. Like, it's not like people are like dying, he must see TV type thing. So for him to get that kind of pop, it was a little surprising. But then again, I guess I wasn't really anticipating it being a JDM crowd, right? I didn't think that it would be like that. So I wasn't sure how the reception would be. But it certainly felt like we were in Dagestan for just a minute there, didn't it?
It did. It's I agree with you in terms of the difference between him and Khabib. Khabib had a lot of catchphrases, a lot of big media moments. On the flip side, Ben, I do like how it seems to be needling JDM in just the right way. Like, he's not being like, hey, what the fuck, guys? You can see him sitting there boiling over a little bit. And they had a lovely face off yesterday where there was that kind of thing where one doesn't want to look away. Oh, we've got to hear Andy, the legendary Andy here.
Look at the profile. Look at the profile on JDM. Like an old frying pan.
That's the last motherfucker you want to be fighting. You know
that tells you that is a man who has never learned an easy lesson in his life.
It only gets worse when you see him straight on, though. It's like that nose looks like an imposter.
Both of these guys' faces right now, you can tell, these guys, they've been preparing to do a specific kind of job, and it shows on the mugs. I especially, I guess I'm not that surprised that people are into Islam Makhachev because I think he is kind of an easy guy to like. He does benefit. I think he inherited a little bit of that
Of course.
Habib allure just because people associate the two of them. MMA fans got really used to, we like there to be a dominant Dagestani somewhere in the game. We get a little weird, I think, if there's too many of them at one time. Like people don't seem to
You
love
can't
that.
overdose.
Yeah, but when there's one guy, and especially I think that they respect the going up in weight, trying to become a champion in another division, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, if you talk to Islam, he's kind of a funny guy. He's a surprisingly funny guy, which not easy to do in another language. But I've talked to him before, and I was just like, okay, this guy does have a little more charisma and personality than you expect. So I guess I'm not that surprised to see people loving on him a little bit. JDM though, there's no reason to boo JDM. That guy, there's nothing to dislike about that guy, really. He seems like such a nice guy. He really kind of cashed in a lottery ticket there when he got this unexpected title shot. I also think that there's a lot you could appreciate about a guy who started off his pro career with 2 straight losses and then was just like, all right, you know what? I'm not losing another fight. And just blazes a path all the way into the UFC, and inside of 3 years is the UFC welterweight champion. Like, that's impressive. I think that's kind of the stuff that people usually connect with about this sport. Maybe it's just that he hasn't been up there at the top long enough yet for people to really connect with him. And maybe it's that some MMA fans are just so programmed to always see it as a binary that if I'm in favor of this guy, I must be absolutely against the other guy he's fighting. Doesn't really need to be like that, I think. But I also think that maybe a little bit of that fan sentiment where everybody seems to be very pro-Islam and anti or, even mildly indifferent to JDM is kind of underscoring, like, it makes you think that it's a more one-sided matchup than I think it is. I think some people are going to be surprised by JDM in this fight.
Where are you getting that from, Ben? Is this what you've seen in the Bilal Muhammad fight? Because obviously there is a big jump up, right, for JDM in terms of that fight. Like obviously Gilbert Burns, but then in Bilal, a lot of people were like, this is short notice. He's going to struggle against Bilal's wrestling. We did not see a lot of Bilal's wrestling that night. What are you seeing from that fight that makes you feel like he has a really good chance against Islam?
I think the stuff that he does well is stuff that could give Islam problems. Like he has a very sneaky striking attack where, especially against a guy like Islam who is sort of, I don't want to say reckless, but he will go out there and throw with you a little bit, even when he shouldn't. And he kind of has that in him, and it's tough to get out of people where if you land a good punch on him, he wants to get one back on you. And JDM, I think when he can draw out strikes from you on purpose, where he knows here it comes, he's tough, man. He's going to land some shots back to you. I think you saw that in that Bilal fight sometimes. And I also think that jump from 155 to 170 is no joke. You're talking about 15 pounds there, but also a lot of power. And sometimes we see a guy where his style is so wrestling based and everything is built off of that. And when you go up in weight and you can't bully those people around quite as easily, sometimes then you end up having to strike more than you wanted, having to stand up there and try to set up your takedowns by landing punches. And I think by the end of the first round, you'll know kind of what the story is going to be. If JDM can fend off a takedown or two, if he can get his striking game working, the big thing for him is going to be, can you go out there and still do your stuff without being so worried about Islam stuff that it shuts you down? Because we've also seen that, right? Where somebody is a very good striker, they don't want to start throwing too many strikes. They don't want to start stringing punches together in combinations because they're always worried about that level change. They're always worried that the takedown is coming. And then you end up just not doing enough, which both leads to you losing rounds, but also makes it easy for the other guy because he's just gets to be entirely offensive. You can't do that, but you also need to have a plan for dealing with those takedowns. I think JDM is going to come in here with some kind of plan. I think he's going to surprise some people and be a little bit better at dealing with the grappling game from Islam. But I also think there's going to be some moments here in this fight where Islam is going to stand there and trade with him, and that's when JDM, I think, is maybe going to surprise him a little bit with the power difference at 170.
I saw you posted, Ben. There's a little bit of an X factor, right? When you look at like the Craig Jones,
right.
That situation where maybe we're squinting a little bit, but that first fight with Volkanovski was very interesting. Where it was heading, certainly on the championship rounds, got very, very interesting, and some of the things that were going on. And you're like, well, JDM being a bigger guy who actually has pretty good chops in this area too, that could really play into this as a factor as well. And I do think you're right. If it's, you can imagine a scenario, and I mean, against Bilal Muhammad, I think you're right. He didn't use the wrestling as much as everybody anticipated, but the times he did, he was shut down. I mean, he had a couple moments of success against JDM, but for the most part, most of the takedown attempts, half-hearted or not, were kind of thwarted, and it was kept in his wheelhouse. It was kept where he wanted it, and you can kind of see that he's very expert at kind of dictating you into his space versus the opposite. So I think that if he's able to do any of that, he's certainly going to have some moments in this fight. I can't believe, to be honest with you guys, man, I just looked at the odds today, and on the main card, which is full of like very competitive fights, that's the biggest discrepancy in terms of a line. I think it was something like -300 for Islam in this fight. So yeah, that's a pretty big underdog for the guy holding the actual belt that's being come for here. That's a telling thing too. So that chip on his shoulder that we were talking about, I think he's happily bringing that to the cage with him.
The narrative in these situations can sometimes benefit the underdog because of how we're seeing the crowd beforehand, how G'd up they are. Suddenly, like, if he's having success, like Ben said, if he starts stuffing early takedowns and we're hitting round 3 and JDM hasn't been down yet, suddenly it becomes a very different affair. And this is the kind of fight that will make him, if he comes out with a win over Islam Makhachev, a guy who effectively, he's moving up, and every contender is almost discounting the fact that JDM is in this fight. Like, you hear Ian Gary, Sean Brady, all these guys talking about this, and they're like, well, Islam's here now. You know, it's a different era.
Not to mention Islam was kind of waiting, remember, on the sideline, like, hey, wait, let me see who wins this fight. JDM, yeah, I'm coming up there. You know what I mean? I know it was like because he knows Bilal, but like, it does affect you when a guy's like, if you win, I'm coming for you, you know?
Yes. Yeah, so I think he could be made from this, but just seeing that weigh-in this morning, like, you're kind of, every time someone moves up, and I'm sure we'll talk about it with Zhang later on, moving up to fight Valentina, but when someone moves up, you just kind of say they're going to have better cardio, you know, because they didn't have to cut as much weight. Like, if you were to ask me, Ben, who's had the rougher session there last night trying to make that weight, it looks like Islam to me.
Well, he has said that making 155 has gotten tougher and tougher on him. So, you know, this maybe you also go in thinking the weight cut is going to be a little easier, because it ought to be. You got you're spotted an extra 15 pounds, and then it doesn't always end up going the way you think it's going to go. I also, you know, I don't want to take too much from just what we see in 15 seconds of a guy standing on a scale, because, man, I have been in some UFC weigh-ins and watched some guys get up on the scale where I go, we need to make sure somebody goes back to the hotel room with him to make sure that he doesn't just lay down and die. Like, he looks terrible right now. I've definitely come away from some weigh-ins and changed my mind and been like, okay, I know who's winning this fight, because somebody looked absolutely awful up there. But then by Saturday night, they're a different person. They're completely rehydrated and reborn, and it doesn't seem to bother them all. So you never know exactly how that part is going to play out. What I'm really interested in seeing is how the difference in punching power at welterweight, because we've seen a lot of guys where they go up and both their power doesn't come with them quite to the extent that they expect. Like, they're landing the punches that used to rock people at their weight class, and people are shrugging it off at the higher weight class. And then on the other end, they end up eating a shot and going, whoa, okay, that was a little heavier than what I was expecting. And I think that, too, when you look at that Bilal fight, I mean, I know we all looked back on it afterwards and we're like, Bilal should have wrestled more. He did try to wrestle a little bit, but you have to remember, these guys aren't robots. They're not video game characters in there. If you go in there and you get punched in your nose, you know, you're bleeding, you get your bell rung a little bit, it's going to make you kind of worse at the other stuff. It's going to diminish you a little bit. And so I think if JDM can find some of those moments and get to Islam early and fend off some of those early takedowns, then I think that he has a really good shot in this fight. You also know, when you're going up against a guy like Islam, though, you tell yourself in camp, I'm probably going to get taken down at some point. Yeah. Your plan has to be, what do you do to get back up without exposing yourself and without getting into that Dagestani rinse cycle that those guys like to get you in, where they're pulling a little bit ahead. And that's the thing that it'll exhaust you grappling wise. When you're falling behind somebody, you're just always playing catch up. You're always dancing to their tune, but also you're falling a little bit behind, you're falling a little bit behind. He's just kind of pulling ahead of you in the grappling game. That's when you do something stupid, trying to make up that ground, trying to all at once get back up or all at once get a position back. That's when you give him an opening, and that's when Islam is really great at seizing the smallest opening and submitting people. JDM has to not do that, but you can't stay there and work your guard against a guy like Islam. You're just slowly losing.
Do either one of you guys still look at Islam sort of in the shadow of Khabib? And if so, this fight, now that he's going up 100, like say he goes right through and wins this title, and you have all these dudes stacking up to like, fight for the title behind him. Is this the big moment for him, for Islam, to basically be like, hey, I'm my own man, I'm my own champion, and I'm doing my own piece of history here?
Yeah, 100%, I think.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's part of why he wanted to do it, whether he is entirely conscious and willing to admit that or not. But like, don't you think like some part of him went, all right, I don't want to be Habib's little brother kind of for forever. What did Habib never do is leave the weight class and go after another title. I do that, and then everybody's talking about Islam just as one of the greats without having to mention the Habib connection.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of in. I think I'll always be in the Habib walked so Islam could run kind of situation. Like I think he benefited so much from Habib. And we even mentioned at the top of the show. And I'm not for a second saying Islam isn't fantastic. I think he's brilliant, that he, among the best fighters in the world. And this will probably put him back pound for pound number one. If you didn't have him there already. I just don't think I can ever separate the two. I don't know if that's disregarding anything about Islam, but I don't think you can ever speak about Islam without speaking about Habib, I guess is my point, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they'll forever be tied at the hip, and I don't think they want to be different than that. But just in the case of like their own legacy, because I feel like at some point, you can look at the body of work that Habib had, and you can make a judgment based on what he's able to do, which was very impressive, right? 29-0. And barely like I think he lost like one round in his whole career. I mean, that's so dominant that it's almost unparalleled. But then you get a guy who's moving up a weight class and say he's able to be there for a while. It just feels like you'd be doing an injustice not to kind of look at Islam as his own man at some point.
Yeah, I could look like an absolute hater. Like come like Sunday, if Islam goes in there and strangles JDM in 10 seconds, I'll be like, yeah, no, I was wrong. I was completely wrong once again.
That's one of the things. So you talk about Habib going 29 and like hard to do a lot better than that, right? And it always has made me chuckle to think of Islam talking about how those guys used to rib him a little bit, and the thing that they would rib him for is like, LOL, you have lost one fight. Like you're not even undefeated, you loser.
Loser. Oh my god,
that's a real thing though, man. Like when Umar lost, that was one of the first things I wanted to ask him, was sort of like, well, how do you kind of walk back into that gym without a bag on your head, It's like
it's
you're
crazy.
the standout now for the losing aspect,
And if you've ever seen those guys with each other and the way they talk to each other, and
yeah.
stuff, they don't have a like, well, he's hurting right now, we should take it easy on him kind of mindset, They think, well, the way I will help my friend is by mercilessly needling him about this thing until he grows stronger.
Yeah.
We better talk about some of the other fights in this card. There's a huge fight for the flyweight title. Ben wrote a brilliant article about Valentina Shevchenko.
That blew me away.
He set me up for it. Like, in the article, he says, "You're not going to believe this," and I'm like, "Come on, then."
He said that to me as well.
"Oh fuck!" I'm like, "Oh, gee, I was not expecting this." Ben, lay this out for us here. I think a lot of people don't understand the legacy and the gravity of what Valentina is doing in this immense career horse.
Yeah, well, I mean, just when you look at the longevity and the consistent success, because she started fighting as a teenager in 2003. She had her pro MMA debut that year and also was fighting as a kickboxer that year. And when you look at the other women who started around that time or even a couple years after that time, they're all retired. There's pretty much nobody who's still around from that era. Like, she spanned several different eras of women's MMA, and not only is just like still around, which would be an accomplishment in itself to be here, 22 years later, still in this sport, still doing it, but she's still the best 125 pounder in the world and has been for a long time. That's crazy. We don't see people, we've seen people who start very young in this sport, and usually they also burn out pretty young. If you start as a teenager, usually by the time you're 30 or so into your early 30s, it's starting to wind down for you. And that just hasn't been the case. Even in the last few years, I would say, last maybe 5 fights, we've seen it look like Valentina is slowing down a little bit. But she makes up for it with just the well-rounded game, the experience, the kind of veteran savvy that she has, where even when she is not physically overwhelming people anymore, she's still finding ways to win these fights. And that, I think, is so impressive to just be able to do it at that level for that long, because it's like she started fighting, fought for 10 years, and then the UFC had its first
wild.
women's fight. 10 years is an entire career. 10 years is a good career in MMA. There's lots of people who have great careers who don't make it 10 years in this sport before something or other drives them out of it. She did 10 full years before the UFC even said, all right, I guess maybe there's something to, and it wasn't even her division, the one that she's currently been holding down. It was a different division. And then they finally get around to like adding more divisions and everything. And she had an entire career. The UFC opened up, and then she has this entire career where she moves on up to the title, captures the title, holds the title down, becomes the most dominant force in the history of that division in women's MMA, and is still there now. That's incredible. I mean, you look at some of the names who started well after her, had great MMA careers, and have now been retired for years. Like Ronda Rousey started, I think our first amateur fight was 2010, so 7 years after Valentina Shevchenko's debut. And Ronda Rousey is now like a ghost who shows up every once in a while to haunt the halls of MMA. Meanwhile, Valentina Shevchenko still here, still doing it at the very highest level.
And it's kind of it's wild, because a lot of times if somebody's still in the game who's been in it a long time, we look at them as compromised. People a little bit like, man, they're chinny, they've been around a long time, I don't know, they're just hanging around. I've never really had that thought with her. Like, yes, she had that fight with Santos, I think it was. Wasn't that the one that was like very close? Yeah. It was like a coin flip in the end, and I was like, this is probably her downfall. And then, of course, the Grasso series where you see her actually lose, but then she comes back stronger and stronger. And then the fight I thought for sure that she would lose against Fiorot, she shows up in the most fierce form. I mean, like you said, Ben, like with this veteran savvy, like never gets out of it, takes control of the fight at some point, and then it's just her fight at the end. You're just like, okay, wait a minute. She's still doing this. And here we go again. I think a lot of people, the sexy pick here is going to be for Weili to go in there and win this thing. But dude, at this point, Shevchenko has kind of proven again and again and again that she's going to show up. In that complacency that you're mentioning that would come with 20 years or even 10 years has never showed up for her. And I feel like there's something, I don't know if it's just that maybe she's been kind of almost a nomadic presence in MMA. Like she does travel and goes to different camps. I think she does different things to keep her mind sharp on it and to stay hungry with it. But whatever she's doing, man, she should be studied, because she is the example, right, of like somebody who can do this and still be thriving at, what is she, like 37, 38 now?
37, yeah.
37.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be happening, but it's a crazy thing in that your article points it out. If you haven't checked it out, like go read that and then you get the full context of that and you're like, my God, this is like a miracle of the fight game right here.
I think it's something you see from older fighters who manage to stay relevant later on. And a good example of this is somebody like Alistair Overeem, where we watched him come up as a really young beanpole kind of fighter over there in Pride. Then he became the monster Ubereem, had some help, it seemed.
What help? What?
Are you implying?
I'm talking about horse meat, man. He ate that horse meat.
The protein values are insane on horse meat.
Yeah, you don't even know, man. He got to a point where he was just physically such a force in the heavyweight division that was kind of all he needed. He was just blazing through people. And then he got a little older. He lost some of that. He was no longer just like such a overwhelming physical power. But by that point, he had gotten so much smarter as a fighter. He had added so many little tricks, so many little ways he had that he could pull out a win even when it wasn't looking good for him. He didn't maintain that consistent of a success as Valentina Shevchenko has. She's kind of on another level, but it's the similar kind of thing where you can see it. If you're going to stick around in this game, at some point, the speed is going to start to go, the reflexes are going to start to go. And if that was what you were relying on, if that's all you had and you didn't add new tools and you're not capable of adapting and becoming a different version of yourself later in the career, you're not going to last. How many fighters have we seen where it's just like they hit a point and then they dropped off a cliff? Chuck Liddell, I think, is kind of the perfect example, where it was just like he was getting by on these few things. He didn't really grow past that point. And then when those things started to desert him even a little bit, that was it. He could do nothing but lose, it seemed. And so you need to have that ability if you're going to stick around as long as somebody like Valentina Shevchenko has and to be as successful as she has. And that's what I think makes for a really interesting fight here, is because Zhang Weili comes in incredibly well-rounded fighter herself, and like very dynamic, very just the speed, the explosiveness that she has. If you end up in a fast-paced fight with Zhang, I think Valentina's in trouble. I think she needs to slow this fight way down. She needs to use her size, use that power, and really grind one out here. I don't think you want to be in a quick fire fight against somebody when your skills are starting to desert you in that area a little more than hers are.
Did we anoint like Amanda Nunes the GOAT of women's MMA too soon?
Well, this is a question you asked me in the roundtable, Chuck, and both of you guys have tied me in knots in this fight. Because first of all, I was with the sexy pick. I was with Zhang.
Yeah.
And then I get the roundtable question sent by yours truly, the man in the hat, and I'm like, whoa. He's like, are these two women fighting for GOAT status? Then I read Ben's article with this tremendous story about Valentina and how long she's been around and how she's seemingly like, when you're looking at your car and the fuel gauge is down to red, and you're like, oh, I'm going to need to get some fuel soon. But Valentina just fucking keeps going. No need to top this baby up. She's going to keep going. I'm all over the place. But I do believe that you're correct in this. I do believe that there is an argument for the GOAT. Is Nunes' situation in jeopardy, Chuck?
I was one of those people who, I think it was really the Chris, going up to 145, beating Chris Cyborg. To me, I was like, okay. Because for the longest time, we were trying to put, Rousey maybe, or anybody in that space, you try to put them against Cyborg, and it never really happened. Well, we saw somebody go up and actually beat Cyborg, and I was like, okay, as far as I'm concerned, she's the GOAT. But if you take the bigger body of work, if you really look at it, I think it's a closer examination than just kind of like pointing to one thing like this. Shevchenko lost twice against Nunes. One of them was a split decision, but she was the one kind of coming up in weight and challenging. And to me, that's like, okay, that would be in some people's minds maybe that's determined who's better. But I don't know if that's quite as easy as that when you look at their whole careers. Going back, Amanda Nunes had plenty of losses. Well, not plenty. She did have a few, though, early in her career. Alexis Davis and people like that way back in the day. And then when she lost against Pena, she was able to avenge it. Well, it was sort of the same thing with Shevchenko with Grasso, right? Like she gets beat and she shows up in a better form. She should have won the rematch. And instead it goes to a third fight and she wins going away. And now she's backed it up again against Fiorot, which I thought was like going to be the downfall for her. So I think that it seems, I guess the gap that I thought existed between Nunes and the rest, when you really look at it, it's way narrower, especially like right here, because now she's about to take on somebody else in her era, who right now I think is the women's pound for pound GOAT on our rankings, right? Like and Zhang Weili, if she's able to beat her and retain the title, she belongs in that conversation. If she's not the GOAT, she belongs in that conversation now.
I mean, the thing that I think really made the biggest impression with us with Amanda Nunes was that she went up and beat Cyborg.
Yeah.
Cyborg, who was a terrifying force. People, and by people, I mean Jermaine Durandamy, would rather abdicate the title.
She's people.
Than even defend it against Cyborg.
I agree.
She would rather say, you know what, take the title back. I enjoyed my 15 minutes as champion.
A woman who knocked out a man before, by the way, in a fight. Jermaine Durand
didn't want any part of Cyborg. Was such a terrifying force in MMA. Everybody wanted to avoid Cyborg as much as they could, and there was plenty of ways for Amanda Nunes to avoid her. She did not need to do that fight. She went up instead of like being the one who is accepting the challenge from a lighter fighter coming up in weight to meet her. She went up there and beat Cyborg at her own game. Went out there, stood toe to toe with her, knocked her out. That's where she got to be the GOAT, and we never seen anything like that before. Now I still think Valentina, the longevity, the success over so many years, the just being so dominant at the weight class for so many years, like she deserves certainly to be in that conversation. But I do think it's a little different to be beating a great champion who's coming up in weight to meet you where you are than it is to be the one going up. I mean, honestly, I think if Zhang wins, I think she's on her way to having a claim to being one of the greats of women's MMA, because this is a big deal. She's cleaned out her division at this point so much that people were just like, could you please go up, because we don't have anything else for you to do here right now, like let the division rebuild itself in your absence, and maybe later you could come back down and we'll have somebody who feels like a credible challenger. We just talked about that Mackenzie Dern fight as being not that compelling of a title fight because we all know who the best 115 pounder in the world is. And if she can go up there and beat somebody who's been such a dominant champion at a higher weight class, I think that is way more impressive than Shevchenko winning this fight and just sort of maintaining her position.
I will say too that Amanda Nunes, if she feels slighted by anything we're saying, if she goes and does the same thing again to Kayla Harrison, she's going to
all got to shut up. We just got to shut
our faces.
Yeah, because it is though a mark of how great Amanda Nunes was that we never agree on anything in this sport when it comes to GOAT conversations, and everybody kind of agreed on that one. Everybody says, there's no argument to be made on that. Amanda Nunes is it. And so it's a credit to both Zhang and Shevchenko that they could even get us to reopen the conversation at this point.
Don't tell any of this to Pete. He still thinks that Meatball Molly is number one. Anyway, Pete, what were you saying?
She should be in the conversation, is all I'm saying. That's a brilliant fight. Two great fights. We've talked about them, but that's the most interesting thing for me about this card is this welterweight shit that is going down. And there's so many guys that could put themselves in the spot. And we're not forgetting about Ian Gary and Bilal Muhammad. That's happening next week in Doha. That's up for grabs too. Recency bias is alive in this sport. That could definitely happen. But we've got Brady, Morales, Edwards, Pratches, all these guys. And who is Usman talking about? Well, it's none of those guys. Let's hear from the former lightweight king or lightweight king, whatever way we want to look at it. Here he is.
Saturday, I think we will know one of the contender. And why I say Usman, because he's the biggest name in the welterweight, like who most defend the belt, He's a big name, and he's in good position right now. He beat Barkley, who is one of the contender also.
Good luck to you.
Well, lads, is it just me, or is this one of the most irritating things that could have happened in the lead up to this card? Because I was furious. I saw him talking about this last week, and I was like, surely not. Surely he's on the wind-up. This is the classic Makhachev humor that we've heard so much about. But no, he's doubled down now. Chuck, tell me. Come on. This is bullshit.
Well, dude, you've got a setup at Madison Square Garden on one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year where you have basically a welterweight Grand Prix setup. With the historic fight, right? Like at the top of this, and you have two big fights right under it where the winners could qualify at this point for a title shot. Then you have another one next week. Is it next week? The one that's in Qatar with so then you've got that fight. So you have three fights within a week that could produce a title challenger. So, and Usman is nowhere in that picture. So it's kind of introducing a foreign agent to this that doesn't belong into this picture. I think I think it just shows that he's kind of tone deaf on the division. He's also not the biggest name in the division right now, right? Like Kamaru Usman, I don't really feel like if people are paying attention, even casuals, I'm pretty sure they're not talking about Kamaru Usman at this point.
Ben, are they in fact talking about Kamaru Usman?
No, no one is. I don't know.
Except for us.
Yeah, hey, he's entitled to his opinion. That's what I would say. Everybody else gets to have an opinion, so he obviously does too. But no, you're not going to shoehorn him back into this conversation at this point. we are simply not having it.
Don't you think Kamaru Usman's like, wow, me? Hell yeah,
Well, the problem is Usman. I have something coming out about this on Uncrowned. Like, if you look into this, Usman laid this all out like last month. He was like, "This is what I'm doing," and then you look at who is their manager. And you then see Dana White appearing on the Cejudo and Usman podcast saying, "You're the greatest welterweight of all time. Never mind GSP." And I know, Chuck, you were on that Kool-Aid for a bit too. You thought he was in a place to do that.
But I'm just like, this
I
could
was
happen.
going to sip the Kool-Aid. I never got around to it.
Yeah, that's right. You were just put the ice cubes in and the little umbrella, and you're like, I might go there. Just a quick one, lads. At the end of all of this, this welterweight cluster that we're talking about, this championship contender situation, who do you think will be the next person to fight for the title? We'll go with Chuck first on this one. Out of this little cluster, of course, Edwards, Pratchett, all these lads.
I think if Ian Gary goes and does work next week, he probably gets the shot. I mean, it's one of those weird things. Like, you could make the case. This is one of those rare situations where you could make the case. Like, if Brady goes in there and beats Morales, or, well, he just went through the guy. There was nobody else to face. He's already earned a shot. Now he just went through like this blazing 26-year-old phenom. He should deserve the shot, right? And if Carlos Prates gets another knockout, you're like, well, why aren't we putting him in there? Because the dude destroys everybody, But I think Ian Gary, just given, if you look at just kind of the favors, I guess he's done in the UFC, and never saying no, including against Shavkat, who we just pushed aside. And that's something else too. You look at Shavkat and you're like, we're talking about a guy who was supposed to have a title shot at the end in December of last year, and whenever he comes back, he may be 5th or 6th in line because it's so deep in that division right now. That's a nutty thing just in itself. But I think once the air clears, if Ian Gary wins and he does so emphatically, that he ends up being the guy.
Ben, where are we going with this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if all things were equal, that, if you thought about what's the situation, if everybody here in the picture got a win, Ian Gary would be the guy the UFC would be most likely to pick, just because it seems like he commands a little bit more fan attention. He could bring that big fight feeling with him. But you also have to remember, the way these things tend to go in the UFC is not a simple matter of who's highest ranked or who deserves to be the next guy up for the title. It's a combination of factors. A lot of time it comes down to who is available on the date that we have circled on the calendar. And there's a lot of things that could happen here. If there's a lot of different ways you could come out of this fight, this 2 weekends of fights where somebody has a great win but needs to be on the shelf a little bit. They get banged up, they get an injury, they can't turn right around and fight when the UFC might want there to be the next title fight. And so we just go to the next guy on the list. Or maybe they just want more time. Like, we've seen that so many times in this sport where the myriad factors are in play here. It's not just a matter of who looked the best, who had the best singular performance or finish. It's always a combination of, like, what do the fans say? Are people excited about them? And are they available? Are they willing to pick up the phone
who'll end
and
up
say
being
yes?
available? Kamaru Usman.
I mean, you look at how JDM got there. Was
I know.
being available and saying yes.
True.
And
So you're just going to talk around this, Ben. You're not going to make a pick. This is what it's about. You need to give us a fucking name, okay? This all is, what if, you know what I mean?
If you'll recall,
He's going to start talking about Montana State football here in a second.
How dare you, Montana State? The Bobcats? Get the fuck out of here.
Sorry about that. We'll edit that out, Ben. I'm sorry about that.
Fix it in post, PC. I think I do. I mean, the Sean Brady Morales fight, I think, is super interesting, it's a really tough one to call. I'm picking Brady, but I think it's a tough one. That one could be really exciting, but I also could see those guys beating the absolute hell out of each other, and so whoever comes out of that needs a little bit of a break. I do think that if everybody were healthy and you could pick from somebody, the UFC would probably most likely pick Ian Gary, just because, like, he gets our attention. Whether we like it or not, he can get people talking about Ian Gary.
The fact that Morales is fighting in this, like, number 8, something like that, against a number 2 Madison Square Garden. If he goes in there and does work, if he blows away like he's been doing, if he does that, I mean, that's another conversation, isn't it? Because now you got a 26-year-old dude that looks like a phenom that you could plug into that situation, and you would have a very good title fight too.
I think he's going to have a big night. But listen, there are a lot of people who have big weeks, and a certain member of Islam Makhachev's team, his name is Magomed Zaynikov. But because of his nickname, and thank you to Oscar Losev, our wonderful producer, for explaining this to old Petesy Carroll here beforehand, because his nickname is Chanko, the way the Dagestani lilt goes, Islam was describing this man's name, and people thought he was saying John Pork. John Pork, an internet meme, a human, appears to be a human, but there's John Pork. Right?
Kid's got a birth defect. What?
He's Chuck.
is adamant he's still a real person. But we've had this Zynakov guy, or John Pork as the people are calling him, has become a cult hero. And I believe we have an image of him walking among his people yesterday at the weigh-in. There he is. I mean,
you kind of, I mean, when you go back.
Oh, man. Put a flannel on him, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
This feels unfair to do this to the man.
Ben, you have some insights on John Pork, don't you?
Well, I was just saying, I think that, especially in MMA, you have to think of the entire MMA community as essentially a big middle school, a big violent middle school. And anybody who's gone to middle school will tell you the worst thing you can do if people are starting to give you a nickname that you don't like is tell people to stop calling you that. Then it's over. It's absolutely over at that point. They are never going to stop calling you. That's your nickname then. And, you know, I have a daughter who's in middle school, who's in 7th grade, and hearing her tales from middle school reminds me how easy it is to get a nickname and how difficult it is to get rid of a nickname. There is a kid that she goes to school with who everybody calls Cake Pop. You know why? Because one day after school, he walked with his friends to the nearby Starbucks inside a grocery store. And in addition to whatever like silly drinks they were getting, he ordered a cake pop. Delicious little cake pop. Sits there, looking all like bright and pastel colored and everything. He was like, I'd like a cake pop. His friends, trying to be tough guy 7th grade boys, are like, cake pop? You gonna eat a cake pop? They told somebody else at school. By the end of the week, he was cake pop. That man's gonna be cake pop until they graduate. He's gonna come back beyond. He's gonna come back for like a 40-year reunion, and people are gonna be like, hey, it's cake pop. There's no getting away from it. And the fact that he does not like the nickname only increases people's desire to continue calling him that. Plus, it's fun to say, to just call another human being cake pop. The same is kind of true for John Pork. You're not getting rid of it, man. You're not getting rid of it.
Can we see John Pork one more time? I just want
to. Which one?
Exactly. There he is. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's the fighter.
This is when he was in Ireland at the Cliffs of Moher. It's beautiful. We're going to go and hit our first ad of the day. We'll be back to discuss some boxing news, some Rousey-Holm 10-year anniversary, and we're going to be giving you the picks. We're closing in. It's nearly the year end. We have 2 more pay-per-views, and we have some picks to make. See you shortly.
Do you think that some perspective, getting older, building the family you've built, has made you love the game again in a different way, like almost in that youthful way?
Just in building the family, there's a responsibility to show them what hard work is. I want to hand over a visual, an experience for them to understand how did all of these things come about, and I need them to understand that.
It's time, as I've done so many times before, to teach Brandon Walker a lesson. And I kid you not, they go to overtime, and Texas hits that game-winning touchdown, and wouldn't you know it, it happens right in Brandon Walker's face. Look at that. Now, I don't know medically how long Brandon Walker will live. He may live another 60 years. I know that his soul died right there. Right there.
But I don't mind them coming in because I don't really see it as competition. I'm a serious promoter. I'm a promoter who's gonna promote and develop world champions from the get-go, from the start. I'm gonna identify prospects, and I'm gonna build them just like the way I built Canelo, just the way I built Ryan Garcia, just the way I'm building all my champions now. It's step by step.
What did you see from the Boston side of things?
My doomer mentality was they're going to make the playoffs as a 7 seed. Tatum's going to come back, and all of a sudden, as a 7 seed or an 8 seed, they're going to end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then to see it basically be just Derek White and Jaylen Brown, and like other guys that they're fine, can play, but it just doesn't look like the same thing. It was actually kind of stunning.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed our UFC 322 preview. We'll be talking about that again at the back of the show, but there is a lot happening this weekend. It is the rematch between Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, and Ariel Helwani is telling me there's not all that much interest over there. Chuck, Are you feeling the love for this rematch?
No, not really. I always try to qualify this a little bit because, generally speaking, when you have a big pay-per-view like this, your attention then sways into this, the world of MMA, and it kind of stays there. So sometimes a boxing event will be placed at the same time and it gets a little shut out. But generally speaking, I mean, I've heard plenty about the Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua thing. So it's not like there can't be some, some things that bust in and command your attention. I don't feel like I've really heard much about this fight outside of a couple of the boxing people that I follow and kind of seeing what's going on with that. But honestly, the fight that happened, what was it, in April? I had conversations about it with people. It was like beforehand. I haven't had any of those going into this one, which is surprising considering that it's a big rematch. There was 70,000 people at that one, and like the way it went down, where people saw it two ways. You would think there would be a lot more eyes on this thing.
You know why? You know why there's not more eyes on it? You got to hit somebody with an egg to get attention.
That is true, though. That is true.
You go up there and you slap somebody with an egg. We go, okay, let's keep an eye on this one. Something big is going to happen. The egg thing was so big. I remember that the betting segment that Chad Dundas and I do on our Friday co-main event podcast, he bet on the fight without realizing it was still like 2 months away. He just got so wrapped up in the egg discourse.
I think he told us that, yeah.
He was like, yeah, I got $5 down on this thing. And I was like, you realize that's not this weekend, right? Like he had to wait to find out whether he won the bet or not. Right. I don't think he did. But yeah, like you need that kind of stuff to help you get attention, help you stand out in the crowded combat sports landscape. There's a lot going on lately. We got all the Jake Paul drama. And you honestly... especially, this is a good UFC 322 card.
It is.
And
so
there have not been a ton of great UFC cards that's on paper where the entire lineup looks good. Like this one passes the test where I am hearing from casuals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing from friends of mine who haven't really watched the UFC in a while, and we're just texting earlier today about weekend plans, and one of them looked at the fight card and was like, oh shit, I didn't realize this is happening. Can I come over and what? Like that's the test. It's like when people who know that you can expense your pay-per-view cost.
When the mooches start showing back up out of the woodwork.
When they want to come over here, bring a 6-pack of domestic beer and be like, we good? We're gonna sit on the couch. Like that's when it's a good fight card. That hasn't happened in a while. It's happening this weekend. And if you're trying to promote a boxing thing and nobody has even hit anybody with an egg,
yeah, true. Pete, what about over there though? Is it moving? Yeah,
it's not the first fight, but it is being driven mostly by TalkSport and Chris Eubank Sr. showing up on there and spinning a few yarns with the controversial host Simon Jordan, who always gives them back and forth. I'm sure you've seen him popping up before. But look at Eubank here. He's such a showman, the dad, and I can understand the frustration his son must have with like every time I'm in this big moment, here comes dad to steal all the attention.
Literally stepping in front to like.
I know. He's the greatest though, man. His
crowd
delivery.
You out of the camera, yeah.
Oh, he is.
Ben, if you think I saw you saying something about poetry being dead, it's not dead with that man. Like he can recite all kinds of poems for you.
He has some brain for.
He's crazy good at it, man.
It's insane. You spoke about Joshua there earlier, Chuck. You referenced this thing, and it's really heating up. I know you guys have said like the Eubank Ben thing hasn't picked up over here, but basically they weighed in today, and all the conversation with Hearn is about Joshua. Has he signed this thing? And the way Hearn is acting, and I was talking to Ariel about this morning. We were kind of sending clips back and forth. The way Hearn is being so defensive makes me feel like something's going to happen here. And I know a lot of people are like, I gave you the pull my pants down Jake Paul reference last week. I will not do it again.
It's fine.
I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to happen again. Like he's going to talk all this shit, get a load of press.
That's what I'm wondering.
It's not going to happen. But I'm seeing Hearn being so defensive about something Gareth A. Davies said on Ariel's show about it being a travesty and things like that. And I'm like, he would not get this animated about this if it wasn't at least a possibility. Are you buying it, Ben Fowlkes? Do you think Joshua could potentially fight Jake Paul on this mega Netflix card that people are talking about?
It's one of those I doubt that you will, but I'm intrigued that you may kind of things for me, because it is like on paper and in theory exactly the kind of thing that I think a lot of us have been waiting to see happen with the whole Jake Paul experiment. He's been so good at just picking the right targets for himself, keeping himself relatively safe. he's also learned some hard lessons about like, hey, when you go up against real boxers, people A, don't care as much as you think that they're going to, and B, that's when you're going to mess around and lose some fights. And yet a lot of people, I think, especially came out of that Mike Tyson one being angry on Mike Tyson's behalf, on the sport of boxing's behalf, and being like, I want to see this guy humbled. I want to see someone get one back for Mike and for the sport of boxing itself. And so Joshua fits that bill in every possible way. It's the kind of fight where you look at it and you go, I'm concerned that Jake Paul might spend a long time in the hospital if he were to fight Anthony Joshua. And that's what you might need if you're Jake Paul and you're trying to get people interested anymore, because it's been kind of diminishing returns in a lot of these fights. And it was going to be diminishing returns in that Tank Davis fight for sure. People did not ever really get interested in that one. It just seemed silly and not the fun kind of silly. This is the kind of thing where people would go, all right, I'm willing to have my pants down in the public square or whatever it is Petesy says about it. I'm willing to take
I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go for it again, just because I think there's such a good chance that if they fight in early December, Jake Paul drinks Christmas dinner through a straw, and I want to see it.
And I want to see it.
That'll get
That
people
should
in
be
the door.
used on the promo. That is amazing, Ben.
What a
Oh my
juxtaposition of perception that would be too, because then all of a sudden you'd have Joshua knocking out like Francis Ngannou and Jake Paul. They would almost be like the swinging perception of, oh yeah, he's just beating these guys who are just kind of like moonlighting in the ring.
The other like common sentiment I heard being floated when this fight was first being mentioned, it reminded me of your column, Chuck, about the paranoia setting in around fight betting on if UFC fights are coming under the scrutiny. So many people looked at this matchup, and I was one of them, and they kind of went, are we reaching a gentleman's agreement here? Because you're looking at it and you're going, Jake Paul's not dumb. Jake Paul, he's a silly little guy, but he's not a fool. And this would seem to be foolish behavior to go in there with Anthony Joshua, unless you kind of had an agreement like, hey, you can make millions and just carry me a little bit. Let's give him a show. People will be able to see that that's happening, but I think a lot of people, just because of how we feel about sports gambling, the just pervasive reach of sports gambling, how we feel about what's going on in some combat sports now, it would be on people's minds. They would look at that fight and they'd be like, you are going to need to prove to us that this fight isn't fixed in some way.
If you took Floyd Mayweather, I mean, if you took Floyd Mayweather and McGregor and you just extracted the exact same fight and put it into our times right now, that would look a lot different, wouldn't it? Just the fact that he was being carried for the first few rounds. I mean, in boxing it happens, but it's like
he won the first rounds. What are we talking about here, guys?
All right.
I'm joking.
You're right, though. I think, Chuck, that if you the current climate right now, if you had that Mayweather McGregor fight right now, people would be watching it and be like, well, Mayweather clearly took over 4.5 rounds on this one. All his entourage must have had that parlay down there. They must be picking the round that they're going to end it in, just because we all have that on our minds, because it feels like we're seeing it. It feels like we're seeing it. We're not seeing the response be quite as vehement as Dana White likes to claim that it would be. And so when you see something like a matchup like this, it feels like if Anthony Joshua doesn't come right out there trying to knock his head literally off his shoulders, then people are going to be like, all right, the only reason we agreed to do this fight was because we reached an agreement that we won't really try to hurt each other in there.
Now, having said that plus 800 that they put on Jake Paul, not bad. Tempting, right? Value's all.
I do think while I do agree with you about the gambling thing, I think it would just destroy Joshua if he came in and we were like, this guy is, especially with the Fury fight, which everyone's hoping will bookend this great generation of UK heavyweights. Like, that's still at play. And if he went in and he did some bullshit like that with Jake Paul, you've destroyed yourself. Like, boxing people in the UK don't fucking forgive. Like, it is like the way they kind of would look on that would completely destroy Joshua in the public eye. So that's the one bit of doubt that I have about that situation occurring. If it did, I think it would be the death of everything. I think it'd be the end of Jake Paul, end of Netflix getting involved with that kind of shit. Like, because with Tyson, it's more forgivable because he's 60. You know what I mean? Like, he is, as Ben always says, he is literally showing you his ass.
Yeah,
and
he did have his pants down
before this fight begins. What else can you ask for? But speaking about big reactions in the UK, absolutely shocked today to hear, and I think the Ring broke the story. Joseph Parker testing positive
for cocaine, tested on the day of the fight. And this is when he failed. Like, it just, like, Joshua obviously trains in Ireland, and he trains with Andy Lee, who is considered one of the most noble sportsmen in the country. It's just bizarre. Someone like Parker, who would be like, for the MMA fans, he'd be akin to like an Aspinall, a real everyman, a real, you know, open book, gives everyone a lot of his time, feels like a salt of the air kind of guy. I'm really, really surprised by this, and I doubt it's the last we're going to hear about it. Are you shocked to hear this, Chuck?
I am shocked to hear it. I mean, and it's not like cocaine only associates with bad guys, you know, but it's like he doesn't really fit the profile of that. I was thinking about that, man. Like when John Jones, he was training with John Jones out in Albuquerque, I think it was, for the steep. Wait a second. So he was fighting. He was John Jones.
Oh no! What have we done?
No, but I mean, in all honesty, it is a little shocking because he seems like he's one of those clean cut guys, completely like everything I've ever seen or heard about. I've never talked to him in person, but like just everything I've seen about him, that's like, whoa, that is a complete that's a complete misguidance of whatever you think about him, right?
Yeah, it's
I like how Chuck started off his comments by basically being like, "Well, we all like a little bit of cocaine."
Yeah, from time to
We're
time.
good guys.
The booger sugar's not going
to. We're not bad guys.
You wake up with a hangover. You got to get to weigh-ins. You know what are you going to do?
Blast a few rails. Let's go.
I mean, I do.
His
think
pinky nails were always very long. I knew that though.
With cocaine, the thing is that it's not like marijuana that stays in your system for so long after you've used it. And so with something like this, people are going to be like, wait, so when was the last time that you were doing some cocaine? Like that's the part that's going to like set off alarms for people, where they're just kind of going to be like, that starts to seem like a problem, like, and not just a, we had a wild weekend in Vegas one time kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm sure.
Wow.
I have a feeling some tainted supplements will be brought before.
Who's putting cocaine in the tainted supplements, though?
But this is the thing. I mean, right? With the tainted supplement thing, I'm like,
a dash of cocaine.
I'm just saying, on this level, right? Like that doesn't even watch because Parker like is at the top of the game. Like he's fighting Fabio Wardley in this fight, and he would have nearly been guaranteed a fight against Usyk had he won. And then you're kind of telling me, like, on the day of the fight, if this is the way this is going to go, on the day of the fight, he had a supplement he never had before in his life and was like, oh, must have been in this.
Yeah.
You know, like it just, I'm looking forward to seeing how it shakes out. Feels a bit weird, but Lord knows, who do we truly know in this world, guys?
That's the exact sort of thing, though, that waits to happen for Friday, just for your show, Petesy.
Yeah,
that's exactly
what it absolutely is. They're like, listen, Ariel's not going to be able to handle this one. Throw it at the Irishman. He'll catch it. But it is the 10-year anniversary of Rousey v. Holm this week, and Chuck, well, believe it or not, he's wrote another brilliant article about this, and the smile on my face, Chuck, as you reminded me of that great Mike Goldberg line. If you can give it to me again here, and you compared it to the band playing on the Titanic as the ship goes down, which is absolutely.
It takes a lot of energy to be a rock star.
That's my God. It. Oh my fucking God! I watched the fight again today, Chuck. I mean, it still hits. Like it's still. You watch the build up, and they have like, you know, Rousey throwing the hands.
Yeah,
you know, she thinks she can box. Let's see how it goes against me. And then like the you have Holm standing on the mountain in the middle of Albuquerque with the drone going around her. It's all very dramatic. And then we're into Melbourne with those the garden set chairs that everyone seems to be sitting in, those little white plastic chairs.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Crazy event. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, and the walkouts were like a mile. Like they had to go. I was you think about that, and I was intro was basically like there's no equivalent that you can come up with anymore, right? Because she meant so much to so many people at that point in time. And in fact, when you go back and watch it, you can even see the people walking out with her are just like, the goddess is here, like part the sea. We're gonna, it was just such a different kind of significance for a fighter who had such a pervasive like presence in pop culture and beyond the octagon. So like if and the thing that you can't convey is all of us, we're trying to like lift this thing more into a more positive light where everybody would look at our sport, and be like, oh, it's completely legitimate. Look who's, she was kind of the one, along with a couple of other things, but she was hugely part of that because she was on, I pointed this out, Good Morning America announcing the fight. And, she's on Ring Magazine. Like the people are talking about her in ways that you're just like, she's transcended into pop culture. So when you look at that and you put it aside a little bit and you watch that fight again, like you did, what glares at you? She's out there like just coming winging weird punches. Like it looks so sloppy, and you see her getting pieced up from the very beginning. And when you watch it now, you're almost like, man, what were we thinking? Like she's just getting so pieced up that Mike Goldberg becomes completely like he's watching something completely different, right? So I'm like, this nothing will illustrate more than to going back and watch that fight where she was at in her career, because Mike Goldberg is like, oh, yeah, she is, Ronda Rousey, even as she's bleeding. And Joe Rogan is sobered up from about the mid-round. He's like, she is getting beat right here. Like he's worried, like, oh, this is all going away. And then with like 20 seconds left, I think she just ate like an elbow or something. Like something, there was a big shot, and he goes, it takes a lot of energy to be a rock star. And he's like, dude, what are you watching? Like, he's like, he's like, this has nothing to do with being a rock star. She's getting lit up. She's losing this fight. And it was like, to me, that illustrated exactly the sobering moment that it was, because the next round halfway through, boom, that head kick, she's down. And it was like one of the most seismic happenings in MMA at that point.
Yeah. Well, do you remember too, she was on a talk show, one of the late night talk shows before this fight, and, which is when not a common occurrence for UFC fighters then, not a common occurrence now. And she was saying, they were basically, I don't know if it was like Jimmy Fallon or Colbert or one of them, and they were basically just like, so who are you fighting? What is this? What's going on here? And she was just like, oh, it's Holly Holm. She's a kickboxer. She's going to look to stuff my takedowns and kick me in the head, but it's not going to happen like that. And then people put that clip right next to it happening exactly like that. And I think that was also one of the moments where, when Ronda Rousey is mad now, when she's talking about how, her disdain for MMA fans and how she feels they turned on her and everything, I think a lot of it stems from this particular fight, because she had really built up this dominance in everybody's eyes, and she had really enjoyed that. She did a lot of shit talking on people. She kind of she tried to even do it with Holly Holm, who's just as nice a person as there is in MMA. And she tried to kind of work in a person where she was just like fake preacher's daughter, fake nice, like she did all that stuff before the fight. And so then when you finally lose one, then there's going to be some people dancing on the grave a little bit. And I think that she never fully got over that. She came back kind of when she wasn't totally ready and fought Amanda Nunes and got beat even worse there. And I think that the legacy of those things and the way fans reacted to her, I think that she never stopped feeling hurt by that. And it started here with this fight.
Yeah, it's a spectacular scene at the end. And just to illustrate how not that person, like as in this fake person, Rousey's trying to portray Holm to be. Rousey is at 6 and 7. She's on the ground. The fight has been stopped. And Holm's walking around her trying to embrace her. I feel like she's trying to be like, are you okay or whatever? And Rousey isn't even aware that she's there. And Tarverdian puts a seatbelt grip around Ronda, but not like, he's obviously not trying to choke her. He's just trying to embrace her in some way. And she immediately fights the arm. Like she's still going like, is this still fucking happening? And it's just one of those moments. It's forever trapped in time.
Yeah.
It's just
even the weigh-ins, remember? Like just the whole, it was just such a,
Esther Lynn, by the way, deserves
that photo.
Like,
that photo, that specific photo is so great, man.
The one you put up, but also the head kick photo of like, it's like,
oh yeah,
it's like you can see her turn to a corpse on contact. Like you just see this, just unbelievable. She deserves some kind of award just for, like, I know she did tremendous stuff, but that event in particular, over in Australia, we felt also removed.
Were either
from
of you guys there?
No.
Did you go to that one?
No, her work is just incredible. But I don't know. It's got to be one of the all-time moments in the sport. Has to be.
Well, in terms of just like pay-per-view buys and viewership numbers, hit a level that kind of proved that this was the that you should have been doing women's MMA maybe before you were, because that was always Dana White's thing, right? Was it just like didn't believe in it? Took Ronda Rousey to get him to believe in it, to get him to give women's MMA a chance, and then it's not that long later you're turning around and you're looking at doing, over 1 million pay-per-view buys or something like that, and you're going like, they absolutely can be stars. You did a huge event here and kind of hit a high watermark in a lot of ways.
Yes,
Crazy to think, like, if Ronda does, you were mentioning earlier, like that, Habib walked so that, or like, so that it's like that Ronda, if she doesn't break through, who knows if we're watching, this fight this weekend at Madison Square Garden. It's just, you don't really know who would have been that Trojan horse in the end for the UFC. I feel like they would have come around at some point because there was so much talent, but I don't know if it could have been bigger. And that, you try to give her that credit because I don't think that there was anybody who would have been able to carry it as far as she did, so quickly and draw that kind of audience like she did. I'm not sure anybody else could have done it to that effect.
No, and look, in fairness to the UFC, even when Andy pulled up the poster there, Valerie Letourneau and Joanna and Jacek underneath this fight, as in to push that out as well. And honestly, like, Rousey losing and women's MMA continuing from strength to strength, like still being, as we can see this weekend, as you're saying, it kind of proved that it's more than one person. Even though we needed that Trojan horse, it is more than just Ronda Rousey.
Well, that's one thing that I always think, that MMA has plenty of problems. The UFC has plenty of problems. There's plenty of negative stuff you can say. One thing you can say, though, about this sport that you can't say about many others is that the men's version and the women's version exist side by side, more or less equally. It's not like the women's version is a separate thing that's put off somewhere else and has a different fan base or anything. They're right there. The fans perceive them as being the same thing. They get just excited about these women's title fights as they do about the men's title fights. They're all treated equally badly by their promoters, and they're all
equally badly. What a line!
They're all financially exploited, just the same way. And you can't say that in many other sports.
Well, you don't want to get them too rich, Ben. If you get them too rich, then they change. You know what I mean? And then, so I don't want to do that.
Money fucking ruins everything. Why do you think this guy is in casinos throwing $1 million
$100,000 blackjack hands being money ruins people, man, I tell you.
But this is what it is, Ben. They don't understand. He's trying to get rid of the money because it's ruined him. He's like, please, come on, take this $1 million, blackjack dealer. One more break. We're going to be back with our pay-per-view picks. Things are hotting up. People are making strategic decisions. This guy definitely is. As Ben told me about 6 months ago, it flashed into my head this week. How do I catch Drake Riggs? We'll be back to talk about that and do some super chats. We'll see you then.
Do you think that some perspective, getting older, building the family you've built, has made you love the game again in a different way? Like almost in that youthful way?
Just in building the family, there's a responsibility to show them what hard work is. I want to hand over a visual, an experience for them to understand how did all of these things come about, and I need them to understand that.
It's time, as I've done so many times before, to teach Brandon Walker a lesson. And I kid you not, they go to overtime, and Texas hits that game-winning touchdown, and wouldn't you know it, it happens right in Brandon Walker's face. Look at that. Now, I don't know medically how long Brandon Walker will live. He may live another 60 years. I know that his soul died right there. Right there.
But I don't mind them coming in because I don't really see it as competition. I'm a serious promoter. I'm a promoter who's gonna promote and develop world champions from the get-go, from the start. I'm gonna identify prospects, and I'm gonna build them just like the way I built Canelo, just the way I built Ryan Garcia, just the way I'm building all my champions now. It's step by step.
What did you see from the Boston side of things?
My doomer mentality was they're going to make the playoffs as a 7 seed. Tatum's going to come back, and all of a sudden, as a 7 seed or an 8 seed, they're going to end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then to see it basically be just Derek White and Jaylen Brown, and like other guys that they're fine, can play, but it just doesn't look like the same thing. It was actually kind of stunning.
Welcome back, my lovely people. As you know, the staff over here at Uncrown, we do a little picky picks, and us three guys, well, we aren't on the top of the table, I'll tell you that much. We are fighting hard to catch that man, Drake Riggs, up top there. As you can see, Chuck has gone with Islam Makhachev in the main event, as has Petesy Carroll. One man stands alone
Here we go.
with Jack Della Maddalena. Explain yourself, folks.
Look at where I am. I can't make any moves. I can't improve if I just make the same picks everybody else does at this point. I only have one goal right now, and it's to not be last. If I can achieve that, then I will be happy. I will at least be somewhat satisfied with it. So I can't just sit here and follow the crowd. I got to take some chances.
How do you like that analysis for his pick? He's like, I just don't want to finish last. That's why I picked
I love it. No.
There you go.
Like Ben has infiltrated my mind with this picking. Because I'm doing the same thing this week. All of us have Zhang Weili. Drake Riggs at the top there, which is worrying, has Valentina.
Yeah, that is worrying.
What does he
Riggsy
know?
is fucking tearing it up. He knows too much. Is he involved in the gambling ring? That's what I'm starting to wonder. Look into that, Shaheen
Most
Al-Shadi.
experts say yes.
These three certainly do. Chuck, me and you have gone with Morales, and I will say this is slightly because I knew GC would go Sean Brady because they're boys.
Yep.
I was like, he's going there. I need to get after him.
That one feels bad. I don't like that pick, but
we're gonna know very quickly. I feel it's that kind of fight. Very quickly, we're gonna be like, "Oh, look, we're either very right or very wrong in that one." And can we just flash that up one more time, Andy? See what discrepancies exists between ourselves. I'm the only one on Leon.
I wonder. Yeah. Well.
I think Leon, man. People are sleeping on Mr. Edwards, and I know his performances the last two fights were not good, but I don't know, man. He's got that little chip on his shoulder this week.
Yeah, but you never know with him. He could always show up and look super good again, or he could also show up and look like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's true, Petesy. Think about that for a minute.
I was in Manchester for the Bilal fight. I know what that looks like. I'm very aware.
At least it happened at 6 a.m. or whatever it was.
Oh my god! And then what is our first fight tonight? On the main card, I have it here somewhere. Here we go. Oh yes, BSD. We're all on Benoit Saint.
Yeah.
Apart from again Riggs.
You know what though?
Concerning.
It is concerning because I think the last time we were all on him, it didn't go so well. That was the Poirier. We were like, "Oh, it's a lock. This is a lock."
That's what's going on in Riggs's mind. I can feel it. Oh,
he's playing at a higher level right now. That's
I'm stressed out, man. I get fucking stressed out on fight night about these picks. I'm like, oh, I don't care, and then suddenly shit goes wrong, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Dude, we had one recently. What was it, like maybe 3 or 4 pay-per-views ago where I went 0-5. I think a couple of us did.
Yes,
and I was like, wow, you couldn't be worse. 0-5.
I think I've left myself open to be on the bottom of the table here, Ben. So, like, if I do end up there, I did that for you. Okay.
Okay,
that was for you.
I'll make sure to keep that in mind. Thanks.
I want to there better be a podium graphic for my bold moves here in the last 2 events. I want to be on it. Riggs, GC. I'd love to just knock one of them off the podium. You know what I mean? That would be fucking magic. That would be my favorite thing. I love them both, but fuck them at the same time. Super chats. Do we have any, Andy?
Yeah,
there they are.
Peeling back that axe. Peeling back. No, all right.
Whatever.
On air Jordan, who is don't know if I used the right analogy there.
On air Jordan.
He's in the Bahamas still. Lord knows he showed up in the office there about 3 weeks ago. I was like, lads, Bahamas is booked. I don't know what to tell you. Him and Ariel, like, they had a fist fight outside to see if they'd be allowed to go or not. Homeless guy got involved. Sorry, what was the question, Andy? I didn't see.
I think there was a question there.
Would be a shame if there weren't any super chats. Thank you, on air Jordan. Enjoy your cocktail, sir. You have earned them. Do we have shenanigans? 20 quid.
Look
This
at
is
that.
a long one. I can't really read this much.
Might be the last one, so we can retire here now.
Petesy, I know you've answered this question before, but I apologize. I didn't write it down. I'm visiting Dublin and Galway next week with my wife. We enjoy a good meal and even more a good Guinness or cocktail. Rex. Galway. Just go and get lost in Galway. It's fantastic. It's a brilliant city. Dublin. Cocktails, a nice place to go. It's one of the oldest steakhouses in Dublin. It's called FX Buckley. It's on Pembroke Street. I bring my dad for like birthdays. Elaine bring me and my birthday. They do wonderful cocktails. You're on Bagot Street there. We're just off Bagot Street. Bagot Street is full of great places to go for pints of Guinness. There's a place called O'Donoghue's. You're talking about a 3-minute walk from FX Buckley's on Pembroke Street. Go in there, get yourself a pint of Guinness. They have trad music most days of the week. Just up from that is Toners. You're beside Stephen's Green there. the world is your oyster once you hit that neck of the woods. So
What about the
enjoy
Black
it.
Forge? I heard that place is really nice.
Haven't been. Haven't been. Was invited once, didn't go.
You know, I agree. I went to Galway when I visited
Oh, yeah,
Ireland a
that's
couple
right.
summers ago and had a great time there. There's even went to a good Italian restaurant of all things that was in Galway, which actually I remember well because it was where I was there with my now wife, who then at the time I was like, "So what's up? Are you my girlfriend or something now?" Where it's like, "Yeah, I guess so." So
Wow.
you can go to the spot where it happened. I'm sure they've got a plaque up by now. So
They have.
also, especially if you are renting a car and driving around Ireland, which is the way to do it, I think.
Absolutely.
You should absolutely make a detour and go hit up Cork. One of the best parts of our trip was hanging out, partying in Cork, and really fun town. Great
Did you ever
place.
go over to Dunleary?
Yeah, Dunleary's just down the road. Well, it's
there's
it's
some
the south side of
puffin.
the city.
Puffin, those birds. They're you can see some of those over there. So bring your binoculars. And
Get
you
down
can
to Dunleary.
see some puffin.
Train goes right into it, and look, Ben's right. Cork beautiful, Kerry's beautiful. If you can get a car and go around the Wide Atlantic Way, you can see where Star Wars did the recent movies where Luke Skywalker lived on the Skelligs. There, it's one of the most dramatic landscapes you'll ever see. It's a beautiful place. Don't stick to the cities. Get out and explore a bit. It's much more than the points and whatnot, but they're very good as well. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. Anything else there, Andy? Beelzebub, Satan, in other words. Shout out to all the super chats on the world's greatest combat sports podcast. Woo! This is the people's MMA beat. You know what? Have you felt it? By the way, initially people are going like, "Oh, what's going on with this Friday show?"
Yeah.
It's turning a bit now. It's turning. I think you kind of like us. I think you fucking like what we're doing here, and you're very welcome. Anything else, Andy? Jose Valencia, can't start Friday without the crack. I'd like to do crack every day. Great work, guys. Thank you. It's
You shouldn't do crack every day. I'm just going to say it right now.
Well, some people are just built different. You know what I mean? Some people are just fucking built for it.
That's Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. Oh man, that documentary was crazy.
It was
L
nice.
Silent. That's a great name. That's a great name. $4.99. If Islam loses the JDM and goes back down to fight Ilya, does it take any shine away from Ilya if he were to win that fight?
I think it would be just as big for Ilya. I think that it would be a little bit of like if Islam went back down and if he beat Ilya, got the title back, people would kind of have a vibe of like, yeah, you stay home now. You wandered too far away. You got punished for it. Now you should stay back home at lightweight where you belong. But I still think it would be huge for Ilya. I mean, because it's just people would understand what to make of it, right? If Islam went up there, lost against a bigger fighter in a bigger weight class, people would just kind of go like, yeah, well, hey, that's why they have these weight classes, man. Still a huge fight for Ilya.
It wouldn't even be Ilya though. It'd be Paddy Pimblett. That's who he'd be facing.
That's right.
You know what would be even bigger though is if Islam won the title, stayed at welterweight, and Ilya came up to get him. That's a monster fight right there.
It would look like Ilya would be fighting a monster too because he's incredibly short. And fuck, I think Islam's
hope
gonna
we see it,
struggle. If he struggled before at 155, after post creatine, Islam is gonna really struggle getting back down there. I feel that is all, Andy. Oh, more, look at this. Cal, the $10. Love the show. Enjoyed the Shamrock piece. Just enjoyed Ben. Didn't get into it like I would. I said I absolutely adored the Shamrock piece. Will legends experience effects of head trauma recently? Sorry, I'm reading that wrong. Have you had to consider this when interviewing about fighters past? How do you know the truth? What the?
I think I understand what he's saying here is basically that, I mean, for one thing, I think one of the things that we are on the cusp of realizing is that we don't actually really know what a 60-year-old MMA fighter looks like because we haven't seen it really yet. I think we told ourselves a pleasant fiction for a long time that this sport is safer than boxing because it seemed like it should be, right? Like there's no knockdowns that allow you to recover enough to get up and keep taking a beating. The grappling gives you something else, another aspect to the sport. We told ourselves like we're not going to see the same level of head trauma and the long-term effects of it that some of these other sports have seen. And I think we're going to realize it's all head trauma, man. It's not like there's a minimal amount of head trauma in this. It's a fight sport. they are going to deal with some of this stuff. It's not going to be a thing that MMA doesn't have to face. It just isn't a thing we've had to face yet because the sport hasn't been around long enough for it. But we're going to see some of that. We're going to see, we got a whole generation of like the first generation of guys where MMA was really a sport enough for people to dedicate their lives to it, to be doing it several times a year. Those guys are now getting into their 50s and headed towards 60. And I think that we're going to see not only that it's going to be head stuff, but I think it's going to be just a lot of orthopedic stuff. I mean, how many MMA fighters do we know? A lot of whom are not even that old, who are already on a replaced knee or replaced hip, things like that. Like, I think that we are going to get some reminders that this is a hurting game and people are going to pay a physical price for being in it.
Yeah. And it's also why I think people like us give out about the payment so much. Like it's
yes, exactly.
Big time.
Yeah.
Somebody else is making $1 billion a year off of this stuff. They ought to be setting a little bit aside for retirement, pension, ongoing health care, things like that.
Absolutely. Is that them all, Andy? Unique, you've sent us $10. Andy, like, is this some type of allegiance you have with Ariel Helwani show and BITB that you're only appearing in our headphones? This is absolutely ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? I can't believe this. Go ahead. Jeffrey Smith, thank you so much.
Woke up at 5 a.m.
What a fucking legend. I'm sorry. That's all we got. Lads, I love you. Guess what? Crackheads. We've got so much shit over the weekend. The lads are going to do a watch along during the fights. And then me and Chuck and Ariel Helwani be here for the post-fight show while Ben's entertaining his guests on his expense pay-per-view. You know, I'd love to be getting lit up. I'd love to be getting lit up at 6 o'clock in the morning watching these fights. But some of us have to work, Ben, okay? Some of us.
Listen, I'm still going to sit down after it's all over and hammer out a column. So don't you worry about me. I'm a professional, goddamn.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I didn't even think of that. Well, that's very impressive. Listen, we fucking love all of you. You better love us. Come and join us on the post-fight show and on the watch-along tomorrow. From Chuck, Ben, me, Andy, Oscar. Not on air Jordan because he's in the Bahamas. We will see you next week.
Do you think that some perspective, getting older, building the family you've built, has made you love the game again in a different way, like almost in that youthful way?
Just in building the family, there's a responsibility to show them what hard work is. I want to hand over a visual, an experience for them to understand how did all of these things come about, and I need them to understand that.
It's time, as I've done so many times before, to teach Brandon Walker a lesson. And I kid you not, they go to overtime, and Texas hits that game-winning touchdown, and wouldn't you know it, it happens right in Brandon Walker's face. Look at that. Now, I don't know medically how long Brandon Walker will live. He may live another 60 years. I know that his soul died right there. Right there.
But I don't mind them coming in because I don't really see it as competition. I'm a serious promoter. I'm a promoter who's gonna promote and develop world champions from the get-go, from the start. I'm gonna identify prospects and I'm gonna build them just like the way I built Canelo, just the way I built Ryan Garcia, just the way I'm building all my champions now. It's step by step.
What did you see from the Boston side of things?
My doomer mentality was they're going to make the playoffs as a 7 seed. Tatum's going to come back, and all of a sudden, as a 7 seed or an 8 seed, they're going to end up in the Eastern Conference Finals. Then to see it basically be just Derek White and Jaylen Brown, and like other guys that they're fine, can play, but it just doesn't look like the same thing. It was actually kind of stunning